I remember my crush ends up walking up to the door to open the cabin, but for some reason, the cabin door wouldn't open. We ended up looking at each other and she looks at me and says, Baba, I think we're stuck in here. Wait, what? Why? And that's when I walked up to the door as well and I saw that the door would not budge. I started to worry because there was no way I was stuck in a cabin with my crush. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. Now, this story all takes place back in my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, I was a pretty simple guy, but at the same time, I was a major player, meaning that I would do simple things like play video games, go for long drives since I just got my license that year, and as well as, I guess, do homework. Not really, to be honest. I never really cared about school growing up, which probably led me to becoming a creator online that tells weird stories like this, but going on with the story, I remember basically, I was walking through the hallway of my grade 11 year and I ended up seeing one of my friends. Now, this friend that I had back in my grade 11 year, he was really rich, like rich to the point where it's actually kind of disgusting. I remember when I first got my license, I ended up getting my first car, which was a Toyota Celica GT, and I love that car to death. Like, I have no hate towards the car. I love it. As a first car, it did what it was supposed to do. But as for my friend, he ended up getting like $100,000 car. I think it was like a Hellcat is what he called it, and it was the most insane vehicle ever. Literally, every girl in school would know when he pulled up because his car was so loud that even the teachers complained to the parents of my friend. But at the same time, he didn't care, nor did his parents. Going on with the story, I remember I ended up walking up to him and he looked at me and said, "Yo, Bubba, you know spring break's coming up, right?" Yeah. What about it? Well, like, do you have any plans? No, not that I know of. Why? Okay, bro, listen, right? Me and my parents, we bought a cabin recently, and it's actually not that far from here. It's deep in the woods up the hills, but it's really nice, and no joke, I was thinking me, you, and we bring a couple of baddies with us, and we go up to the cabin. You down? I remember I looked at him and I'm like, bro, what girls would want to go with us up to a cabin? What do you mean what girls, bro? It's that easy. Just say what girls you want. At that moment, I ended up looking around and I ended up seeing my high school crush that I liked walking down the hallway. And me and her, we ended up having like a little eye contact. And that's when my friend looked at me and noticed that we were having eye contact. And he said, bro, I'll invite her if you want. What? No, don't invite her. It's not a good idea. What? Why not, bro? It's clear you like her. So like, if you're not going to talk to her, like you might as well just invite her out and maybe you can like, you know, meet her at the cabin. You know what I'm saying? Cabin lovin'. Do you know what you're even saying right now? Is what I told him. But he ended up shrugging his shoulders and ended up running up to my high school crush. At that moment, he ended up inviting her to like the cabin that's happening on spring break. And I ended up walking up behind him and she looked at me and said, "Oh, Bubba, are you going to this cabin thing he's talking about?" And I looked at my friend because I didn't even give him an answer yet. But I ended up noticing that she wanted to go as well. And I just ended up saying, yeah, I'm going. You're not going to come, or are you going as well? Oh, well, I mean, if you're going, sure, like I'll be there. And that moment, my friend just looks at me and smiles as if like, you know, he just accomplished a mission or something. But honestly, in my mind, I was just really awkwarded out, nor did I know what to say. But once we got her approval of her going to the cabin, she ended up walking away and my friend looks at me and I look at him as well and I say to him, "Yo, so if she's going, who are you gonna bring?" I don't know yet. I'm just gonna send a snap out to like 12 different girls and see which ones want to go." At that moment, he ended up sending like all like 12 different girls on his Snapchat a message. I guess it was like his roster back in high school because he was also a major player like me. And he ends up basically like messaging these girls and he just said, "I guess we'll just wait for the day when, you know, it happens." At that moment, I was like, okay, whatever. And let's just say when spring break finally came around, things got really wild because I remember leading up to spring break, he would always DM me a different girl that was coming down. And I was like really confused because it got to the point where like 5 different girls were like ready to go with him. And when it finally came to the night before, I ended up packing my stuff and crashing at his place with my car. When I went over to his place, I remember we ended up loading the vehicles up for the next day. And I looked at him and said, "Yo, so do you know what girls you're bringing?" "Yeah, to be honest, I'm just gonna bring 2 because like I don't know which one I like more, and since there's 3 rooms in the cabin, like one girl can sleep by herself if she wants, or like I'll just take turns with them. I don't really care." Okay, cool, I guess, is what I told him. And to be fair, it was his cabin, nor was I gonna say anything. But then afterwards he told me, "Oh, also Bubba, I'm gonna pick up the 2 girls I'm gonna bring, but can you go pick up the chick that you like?" "What? You want me to pick her up from her house?" "Yeah, she sent me her address. Here, I'll send it to you." He ended up sending me her address and I was really nervous because I didn't know if she was, to be honest, going to the cabin for me or for my really rich friend. But the next day when we got up, we ended up getting ready and we ended up basically driving to go pick up the girls. The 2 girls that he invited actually ended up coming over to his place since I guess they were both his sneaky links and I guess they met for the first time together at his house, which is really weird. But me, I ended up driving to go pick up this girl, and when I saw her already standing outside with a suitcase, and I drove up to her and said, "Hey, like, you ready for the cabin?" "Oh, hey Bubba, I didn't know you were picking me up." Yeah, is that okay?" "What? Yeah, of course it's okay. Here, let me put my things in the trunk." She ends up packing her things inside, and well, one thing led to another. She got in my car and we started heading over to the cabin. We started driving down, and every once in a while, my friend would call me to make sure I'm going the right way, because this cabin was like really high up in the woods. Like, since I'm Canadian, I guess like there's like a ton of mountains, and this like cabin was like up there. So I remember I ended up taking my car and driving it up the hills, and it was really cool because this girl was like, you know, enjoying the like weather and stuff, and she loves the forest apparently, which to be fair, the only time I use a forest is when I wanted to go do the Devil's Tango. I'm not really much of a hiker, to be honest, but I remember me and her, we finally ended up making it to the cabin, and when we got there, I ended up seeing the two girls unloading their stuff from my friend's car that he brought, and me and this girl, we ended up getting out of our car and we ended up unloading things as well. We got inside the cabin, we started picking our rooms, and this cabin was actually really nice. Like, in the daytime, it was beautiful. There was like nice furniture, you know, the wood walls, like it was fantastic. But I think the most awkward part about this though was that when it finally came to us like going inside the cabin with our suitcases, I remember my friend walks up in front of all of us and says, okay, so there's 3 bedrooms, I forgot to mention, so like I was wondering if you guys want to group up in some way. And it was so funny because the 2 girls he brought looked at each other and looked at him and said, oh, like, aren't I sharing a room with you? I mean, I don't mind, whichever way works. And they ended up all putting their luggage in the same room. As for me and this girl, I looked at her and I'm like, well, I mean, there's 2 rooms left. Do you want your own room? Like, it's totally up to you. And she looks around and says, yeah, I mean, I'll have my own room if you want me to. Oh, no, I mean, like, it's totally up to you. Like, we can share a room if you're down. Like, I would prefer that if you want me to be honest. And that's when she smiles. She ends up smiling and saying, you know what? Sure. That sounds like a plan. I remember me and her, we ended up putting our suitcases in the same room, and we had one spare room with absolutely nothing in it, except the bed and the closet. But still, it was totally empty and no one was staying in there. I guess we would call that like the anger room. If someone gets angry at each other, then, you know, they could just go into the spare room. But anyways, going on with the story. After all the rooms and everything was sorted out, we ended up all heading into the living room. We started playing games together. We started like, you know, plugging in the Wii because for some reason someone brought a Wii system thinking it was a good idea, which to be fair actually was, because we ended up playing Mario Party for like 4 hours. And as it started to get late at night, I remember my friend ends up going to his car and pulling out a ton of booze. Now, quick warning before anything, okay? I have to put this warning out there because I don't want to get this video demonetized, but basically the warning is do not underage drink. It is not cool. It does not make you a cooler person. It is bad for your system and no one should do it. High school is when you're supposed to experiment. I get that, but underage drinking is really gross and really disgusting. But since he brought booze, we all ended up having a good time and we ended up drinking together. And well, that led to some craziness because I remember after we all drank, we started to get really hungry. And for some reason, my friend thought it was a good idea to bring booze, but not bring food. So I remember one girl even tried to like Uber Eats food to the place, but we were a far away cabin. Like there was no way there were any restaurants nearby to bring us food. And then that's when one of the girls said, oh, well, to be honest, I didn't drink at all. And I mean, I could just drive one of your guys' cars and we can go like quickly to the store and pick up something. I remember my friend, he ends up like pulling out his keys out of his pocket and he ends up throwing it at the girl from how like much he drank. And he's like, I'll come with you since it's my car, but like, let's go like together. What? Dude, we're not all gonna fit in your car, is what I told him. And that's when he's like, oh, I see what you mean. Okay, you 2 lovebirds stay here, and me and these 2 baddies right here, we're gonna go. I remember one of the girls got super upset when he said that, to the point where they actually all ended up leaving together, but the last girl, for some reason, that left the door, ended up slamming it super hard to close it. At that moment, I remember my crush looks at me, and she's like, okay, well, he's a bit of a jerk. What, him? How is he a jerk? Well, like, I don't know, that's a bit overkill, don't you think? I mean, yeah, but like, you gotta understand, he's been like, you know, drinking and like, you know, it's just one of those nights. Oh, okay, well, you seem calm. Yeah, like, I'm good. Do you go out to cabins much? To be honest, it's my first time, I guess you could say, other than like camp. Oh, well, do you want to like maybe like walk around, like go check out like what's around here? You mean you want to go walk into the woods? Yeah, like, why not? Okay. I remember me and this girl, we ended up basically walking up to the front door and we tried opening it. But then I remember my crush, she ends up pulling the handle down, but realizing that the handle would not move. And that's when my crush looks at me and says, Baba, the store isn't moving. What? What do you mean? And that's when I walked up to the handle as well, and I realized that the door would not open. And this was like the main entrance. There was no other doors around the cabin other than this main entrance door. And all the windows were like alarm systemed, and we didn't want to like mess with anything. So I remember I ended up looking at this girl and I'm like, I think we're stuck in here. Wait, what? How are we stuck? That makes no sense. I remember she starts kind of panicking and I start to as well, because, well, to be fair, like, we're stuck in a cabin. And one thing led to another. together, I remember she looks at me and she starts to worry because we ended up getting an Amber Alert on our phones right at that moment. It started to freak us out, and obviously, like, you know, it made me a little shook that, you know, it started to rain, we got an Amber Alert, and then, like, on top of that, we were stuck in a cabin. We thought things could not get worse, but sadly, it did, because I remember me and this girl, we ended up just going up to my room, or I guess our room, I should say, and we ended up sitting on the bed, and we're starting to think, like, what should we do? Should we call my friend? But there's no service. And then that's when the worst thing happened, where I remember all of a sudden, we ended up hearing, like, a large, like, thunderstruck, and then the lights went out. It just went dark. For some reason, like, there was no lights at all that would turn on. And that's when I looked at her and said, I think the power went out. Wait, what? Are you serious? Oh my goodness, things just can't get worse. I hate thunderstorms. Oh, well, don't worry, I'm sure it'll pass. Baba, can you come cuddle me? Yeah, sure. I remember me and her, we ended up cuddling in the bed that we were supposed to sleep in. And well, from cuddling, it led to one thing and another. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. We ended up doing the devil's tango in a cabin that we were stuck in with the power out. I mean, to be fair, like, it seemed like the perfect moment to me. I don't really know, to be honest. Comment down below what you guys think. But honestly, things did end up still getting worse. And you guys are probably wondering how. Well, let's just say like an hour went by. And I remember we ended up hearing someone downstairs open the front door. But honestly, me and her were so distracted with each other that we didn't realize one of the girls ended up walking into our room when we're in the middle of doing the devil's tango. And she walks in there complaining, saying, OMG, like, I'm so done with him. Like, he's such a jerk. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see what was going on here. And she ends up leaving right away. At that moment, me and this girl that was my crush looked at each other and we kind of just giggled and laughed. Honestly, we thought things were just as bad as they seem, and what's the point of complaining? Honestly, would you guys get stuck in a cabin with your crush? Because if you guys would, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.